I'll just give a brief introduction. Inga Ramcke is a science educator based in Hamburg, Germany. So obviously she's not very happy with the fact that Indian Standard Time is so flexible, but she said she's going to be Indian as long as she's in India. She's a member of the Children's Book Writer Network and focuses on non-fiction. Her books are published by German, Danish, and Russian publishing houses. Through the Science Communication Project, Proletswissen, I'm sure I pronounced it wrong, she also works with adult audiences. Across both areas, she uses puppeteering to engage audiences of all ages with sustainable development topics. Her books cover space science, biology, and physics, while her adult work focuses on seas and oceans, combining playfulness, interaction, human, and accessibility. Her approach encourages curiosity, dialogue, creativity, empathy, understanding, and scientific engagement. We are really honored that she's come all the way from Germany just to conduct these sessions for us and in Kerala. I mean, we are just very, very fortunate to have her. She had one. So without further ado, I hand it over to you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for this introduction. Dhanyavad. It's me again, for all of those who saw me like an hour ago or something like that. So you already know where I'm coming from. I'm based in Hamburg, Germany, and I write non-fiction children's books. And this session is a session that I usually do when I go to schools because I try to encourage everyone to dig deeper into science and to find out why it is useful to be curious, stay curious, and learn a lot of variety of things. Because science books for children, the non-fiction books, they should be, as far as I understand them, funny things to read and to engage with and to be informed, but not in a boring school book related way. I really didn't like the school books that I was reading when I was in Germany, when I was younger. And so the books that I do are more storytelling based, or they have weird perspectives on things, like the last book that I was presenting to you, it was the perspective of the animal on their migration patterns. And this is what I want to share with you, what's in one of those books. And then everyone will get why it's very important to learn good reading and writing skills and to connect the dots between many, many different areas of science and outside of science as well. So where do I come from? I can skip that because you know it. This is Hamburg. I even wrote a book about Hamburg. So if you ever need to know more, but that's in German, you can go to Max Muller-Bavard to learn German if you want that. It's not the easiest language, but some people told me that it's Indo-German, and so Indo-German is very easy to get. I don't know. I'm very bad with Hindi already, so I'm not sure. So, what is a non-fiction book? Does anyone of you know what a non-fiction book is? I'm asking this usually to children, but there are some.
A non-fiction book is when the author writes about books which have nothing which he made up.
Yeah, good. My definition of a non-fiction book is that it is telling you facts and information about the world around you. So mostly I write non-fiction about the topics that I want to learn more about, because then I make it my work to find out more and then I put it in a book and then I bring it to the people. And where do I find, once I get a topic, what do you think? Where do you find inspiration for the topic of the book if you don't have a topic, or if you already have a topic, where would you look it up? If you are assigned something at school, where do you find your information?
Internet.
Good point. Internet. Do you have anything else to add? Do you read books?
Yes.
Okay, you could look it up in a book maybe. So what I do is I actively sometimes draw my inspiration from TED Talks. That's something that you can find on the internet. And it's inspirational talks. You can see the guy who was informing me about this dragonfly migration that I was talking about in my last session. I look up other people's books on topics. When I write a children's book on a certain topic, I look at what my colleagues have written on it as well. Sometimes I'm very, very annoyed because there are sometimes people who write children's books and they don't really do research. They just write what someone else has written in different words, but you never know if it's the actual information, like if it's recent information that they are putting in, because science always changes. Everyone is working on gathering new information, so never write what someone wrote 10 years ago. Don't rewrite stories. Check on yourself if that's really the newest information. That's why I read nature science briefings, for example. You can be part of newsletters of scientists who write in a way that you can engage with. So that's another possibility to get information. And yeah, you can go to publishing houses and figure out what they wrote. So the most scientific information that I find is on Google Scholar, for example. You all know Google, right? This research engine online. That's why you usually put, before AI, you put your question on Google most of the time. And Google Scholar is especially for those who want to get scientific papers. That's what the scientists are producing as an outcome of their research. When they want to inform others what they came up with, they write a scientific paper, and those papers you can, for example, find on Google Scholar. So you would not find funny videos there, you wouldn't have a reference for YouTube most of the time, but get more specialized information. What you can do as well is ask scientists in that research area. That's what I quite often do when I don't get what they write. I have to ask them, so I write them messages, emails. You can go to libraries. You can read books. Sometimes you find something in general newspapers, and in specialized papers. That means there are like journals that are specialized on certain topics that I am interested in. When I write a book, you will see there are many, many different areas of science that go into a book. Even though if I write on an animal, it's not just biology that goes into a book. It's physics as well. In that animal migration book, there is physics, biology, astronomy, music theory. So it's very broad that what you can put into one of those books. So sometimes, especially in Germany, the adults think that writing for children is like, haha, you're an author for children's literature? They are like looking down on you a bit. I don't think that they should do it, because when you want to write for children, you should really understand your subject, because writing for children is more difficult than writing for adults. Why do you think it is like that? Do you share that idea? And if so, why do you think it is like that? Anyone can participate. Do you have an idea? No? You?
Mainly because children know less things, so you have to explain more things in children's books.
Absolutely. You don't have the standard of an adult. When an adult doesn't understand, you can say, you didn't check it at school or what. But you can't tell that to a child. A child doesn't know, and you should be aware that it shouldn't be able to know everything. It's still a child.
Because the children know less things than the adult, and they're also more curious to know more about the book.
Absolutely. Children most likely are more curious about how the world is working. They are asking more questions. They are not as bored and boring as adults, I would say. So the language is a thing. when you write for children, you don't write very, very long sentences, especially the German language is you can be very intellectual in German language. You can have extremely long sentences and you don't know at the very end what you started with. Like you can have like one part of the sentence, another part. You can have like a page and it's just one sentence. So you can be really fucking people's brains with that language. And in children's books, you shouldn't do that. You should be precise. You should not have a huge length of a sentence. It should be easy to follow. And you usually use illustrations. That's something that comes up in scientific papers as well. The scientists show what they mean if it's not explainable in words, or if it's easier to make a map or something, they will do that. But if you follow a fiction book of some fiction author, they most likely for adults won't put a picture in if it's not a non-fiction book. And the words, that's when I told you earlier that there is this migratory pattern of animals, I told you what migration means, because migration is a word that you shouldn't need to know what it means directly if you're a child. As an adult, I would suggest you should know, but not for children. So let's look into a book. I brought you the book that is based on half Indian, half German main character, because I thought that might be interesting to you. I tried to make it into some Indian language as well. I'm working on that. If you know people, please let me know. So the content, the story is based between Germany and Mumbai, because the main character is half German, half Indian, but she's living in Germany with her parents, and her dad is an Indian guy, and he wants to go on a business trip, and he wanted to take his child, Maya, to see the grandparents, take her along, drop her at Dada's and Dadi's house in Mumbai. It has female characters. I'm a bit of a feminist, so I thought that it's good, especially in the STEM field, to include more women characters. And so it's not a male astronaut that is the main astronaut character, but a female astronaut. And it's scientific paper-based information. I was talking to astronauts. I was talking to scientists of all genders and kinds. There is a professional mission specialist, for example, who told me about his work on Rosetta, which used to be a satellite, and figuring out more about comets. That's really interesting. And he is working on rover stuff, like on Mars. So very interesting how he's doing that. I find it most important that it's a bit funny. So I include puppets. That's what I usually do. It's showing astronaut training from the perspective of an astronaut. So it's real information about real astronaut training, how it's done in the European space training. There is this ESA, European Space Agency, who is training the astronauts, the European astronauts. Of course, there is mentioned that you have your space station as well. And it's including education for sustainable development and all that is interesting for all the astronaut stuff that you might be interested in. It has 19 chapters on 160 pages, so it's storytelling approach, but the facts are based on scientific work. So this is the start of the book. It's the scene where Maya is sitting at home being frustrated because she has an ear infection and can't fly. Her mom sits there and she starts to talk to Maya like, what do you want to do? And Maya's like, this is so boring. I wanted to have the time of my life. I wanted to see my grandparents and now I can't. And everyone else is gone. It's the holiday season. I can't play with my friends. The Ma is suggesting play with your furry friend here. And this furry friend, what I had in mind as a furry friend, it was him. His name is Tönning. Tönning is the name of a northern small city not far away from where I live. And he says that he is born there. He hates the seaside. He's afraid of water. He doesn't want to touch his fur. He's a bit of a grumpy character. And he had a different thing in mind when he heard that Maya is going off to see her grandparents. He thought he would have the time of his life. He has free time. He can lay in the bed for several weeks in a row. That was his goal. So for everyone involved, it was not what they wanted these holidays to be. But then Maya learns that the neighbor is an astronaut. The neighbor comes and picks up a parcel at the door of Maya's place that was laying there for several weeks already. And Maya is so bored, she's like desperate, and she's like, please open the parcel, I have nothing to do. I want to know what's in your parcel, and there is a country with the letter I on top, so maybe it's India, maybe it's from my grandparents, but of course it's not, because otherwise Mama would have told her to open the parcel. But then this neighbor is opening the parcel, and out comes a flight suit. That's this blue dress the astronauts are wearing when they go on conventions or explaining stuff to people, and sometimes they even use it on the space station for outreach programs. So Maya is a bit lesser sick. She feels better already because she feels this is the possibility to have well-done holidays, because she's free and she can help the astronaut in her astronaut training. And they are making up mission masala with the help of Dada and Dadi, who are on a tablet in Mumbai and are now overseeing this mission masala from a distance. That's like the scenery that you have in space. When you are on the ISS or a space shuttle, you are connected to the Earth, but the people you are connected with, you don't see physically. You just see them on a screen, or you can talk to them on a phone. And that's what Dada and Dadi are experiencing with Maya all the time already. And now they are responsible for the astronaut setup, because Maya wants to be part of the astronaut training, and the neighbor agrees that she will help Maya to become an astronaut, or more or less, during her holidays. And she even gets her puppet to play along and makes up some words, and you can read these words even, because I thought it would be important to implement as many languages as possible. So you can learn even some German word now, because there is the flight suit is Fluganzug in German, and I can't even read or spell it, but this is Hindi, and you know Hindi, so you could tell me even how it is said out loud. Maya puts another word on her list, rocket, which is quite easy in German. It's Rakete. Hindi, don't ask me. Yeah, but rocket is the English word. Is rocket the same in Hindi? Yeah, but you say rocket in Hindi? There is this Indo-German thing that they were telling me, it's so easy to learn it. It's so close. Raket? Raket, like Rakete, like rocket? Thank you very much. I feel enlightened right now. Wow. Okay, what about gravity? Are we going in the same direction? No, absolutely not. Damn it. Okay. What? Suturan? Nah, I wasn't really precise with that. I will learn it later. But raket was easy. Overwhelming. Okay, so Maya and Tönning are training to become astronauts themselves, and they are training during the holidays instead of being sick. There are many, many weird occasions where they go through phases of, oh, what did I do now? I really destroyed my experiment, or how should we proceed? So I did a lot of research, and I want to show you how the sources for the book looked like the real sources. And it's like this. The research is my European astronaut. Her name is Amelie Josephine Schönenwald. I talked to her like I would talk to someone on the ISS, on Zoom. She looks in the book like that. She did the foreword in her space suit, like the flight suit that I was referring to earlier. I went to a lot of museums This is a spacesuit for the travel in a rocket. And it is one that's really travel to space. I watched a lot of videos. The ESA has a lot of videos for children, and it's very good to understand the content when you watch that. I went on international sites. The Japanese are part of this ISS, and they wrote a lot about food. So I was looking up all the food-related content on their site. I read a lot of scientific papers, like the water is a thing on the space station. They are recycling the water all the time. So when you go to pee on the space station, they will clean up that water and they will have it in their tea later. That's fun fact information for you, maybe. There were a lot of animals that travel to space, and since I'm very curious about animals, I read that book too, and I watched movies. That's my research sources. And with all this information in my head, I did that for 3 months. I was just putting stuff in my head, and then my head spits something out. And then I have to write. And the writing is done on my laptop that's over there, and I have a program for writing that makes me see like the introduction of each chapter, then the main chapter, and if I want, I can have a split screen so I can check on all these things, and all my resources are there. So it looks a bit different to the Word that you might use, or whatever you use as a writing tool on your computer. Then I send it to a publisher, and then it's like going to school. They send it back to me, but with corrections. That means I have discussions. They think some parts are too long. They think a sentence should be at a different place. They think that I misspelled something. Sometimes I think their connotations are very stupid because in that particular case, I had a publisher who was not into non-fiction, so they made it more beautiful, and in that case, it became incorrect, so I had to correct the corrections, because wording matters. If you put a word in the German language, if you put something at the beginning of or in front of something, it is a different sense than at the end of a sentence, for example. And so I was discussing, and that's what you can see here. So that was just the first page, and there are corrections all along. And meanwhile, someone got the text as well, and that was the illustrator. And you can see the illustrator here. We met at Frankfurt Book Fair after the project was done. That's another thing that is maybe especially German, that you, most of the time, if you don't know the illustrator, the publishing house in that particular case didn't want me to connect with the illustrator. They were afraid that we were doing our own deal between us and they could overlook and oversee our work anymore. And Lada Shikova is a Russian artist, and she made something that this puppet doesn't like. If you want, I can ask him why he really doesn't like the book. Do you want me to do that? Yeah, okay. Let's see how that goes, because he had a lot of time in
At the wrong place.
yeah, at the wrong.
And I don't want to talk about it.
Please,
No.
I'm turning.
Yes.
Please talk to the people.
No.
Why not?
You're talking about the bad book.
It's not a bad book.
It is a bad book. Don't buy that book.
Turning.
Yes.
That's not good for my reputation.
I don't care about your reputation.
Thank you. He's a very honest guy. He's most of the time a bit grumpy. What?
I'm not. I'm just honest. And I can tell you that this book is not good because I am in it and I don't like how I look like.
That's the point, right? It's an ego problem, I would say.
Huh? I am a hand puppet, not an ego puppet.
Okay, that's a meta joke that no one will get.
I'm not funny.
That's true. So the problem was, I had this illustrator, Lada, she's Russian, and she read that this puppet,
Me?
is called Tönning,
Yes, true.
and that Tönning is a Meerjungfrau, and that is a word pun made with the word mermaid. A mermaid is a female swimming fable tale version of half human and half fish. You know that, right? Maybe. And if I say it's not a Meerjungfrau, so not this half woman, half fish, but a Meerjungfrau, it would be half pig and half fish. And if I get back, can you hold that here? So if I get back on one slide, or several slides maybe, let me check. So many slides. You can see them here, that this illustration is half a fish, like the tail, and the upper part is the pig. And that's a problem for this small little furry creature here, I guess. That's why he is a bit...
I'm in distress.
Yeah, because Lada pictured him in a different way. She just made a literal translation. She is Russian, after all. So I had to build another puppet.
Not me. And that's the problem with this book.
Yeah, but that means that you don't have to work half of the time. When I do some promotion on that book, you can stay at home and lay in bed.
That's the good part of it. That's true.
I'll leave you like that, okay? You can sleep again.
Okay, people, bye-bye. That was very nice to see you and to inform you about not buying that book. And now I go back to sleep. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Tönning. It wouldn't make sense to buy that book anyways. It's still just in German. The character design of an illustrator, Lada was very cute. She gave me this, so now you know how Tönning is spelled, this mermaid pig version. And it's the first idea of the characters of Mission Control Mumbai, and the dad, and Maya, and Josie. My astronaut, you remember, I was called Amelie Josephine Schönenwald. So Josie is the middle name of the real astronaut, and I gave the main character the abbreviation, and the mom. Then the illustrator was thinking about maybe she would have a more shortcut hair version of the astronaut. So that's one version, but Lada was doing an incredible work. She didn't have much time because beforehand we had found another illustrator, but she dropped out without saying anything out of the project, and that made this process of illustrating a very, very quick and dense one. So she didn't follow up on this idea of the astronaut with short hair, but instead made it the long hair version, and you can see the difference. That was the first version of the illustrator, and then she had another shape of hair. And the same goes for here, Mission Control Mumbai. The grandmother had long hair, but at the very end she has like this shorter version as well. So that's where we settled. And you can see some differences as well. The first version, that's what I got back. Like I got back the corrections from the publishing house, and then I got the version of illustrations. And then I found out that sometimes there is a language that is not spoken in space or hasn't been yet spoken in space, because there was, for example, no Greek astronaut at that time of publishing. So no one spoke Greek in space, and I was doing corrections on details on the illustrations as well. And sometimes they figured, here, this is the Webb telescope. That's the telescope that's giving us on Earth this incredible pictures of space, and there are different versions of putting in a picture of that. So we made some differences in between, and this is one of my main funny things where I was looking at my text, and then there is a part in the story where Maya learned that her grandma is practicing an online game because she wants to learn how to connect a space shuttle to the ISS. And there are free online games. If you look it up on the internet, you can play free online games to learn how to connect the space shuttles, different versions of space shuttles even, to the ISS. So you fly virtually there. And that's what the grandmother is trying to do. So she's playing online in Mumbai all the time. And Maya now wants to know how this space shuttle setup looks like. And she can't sleep at night, so she's calling Mumbai. It's early morning in Mumbai, and grandma is like, what do you want? You're supposed to sleep now. And she's like, but I want to fly this rocket too, and how does it look like in the front where you are seated? Can you send me a picture? I want to draw that. So she starts to draw that in the middle of the night, and I say that Maya is waking up with a dot on her face from one of those buttons that you are supposed to push when you fly the rocket. And Lada, the illustrator, since she just roughly read that in her translation program, she drew a rocket on the face of Maya. And the publisher didn't check that. I'm like, but you know the text, you should do a correction here. There is no rocket on the face of Maya. She's falling asleep while drawing this cockpit, and she's got a button on her face. So now in the final version, there is just this dot, which is correct in terms of how I wrote the text. Then after all, it all comes together. And this is a scene where there is the rover on Mars. This is the rover. It is really on Mars. The thing is that Lada didn't draw a rover. I made up the story a bit different, but then there was no time for corrections, so I had to correct my text according to the illustrations in the final bit, because there was no time to make any corrections to the illustrations. That takes longer than rewriting the text. And she drew this caterpillar, and that is supposed to be the rover. And I learned with this mission professional that there is a sandcastle on Mars, like in reality. It's not like a sandcastle that we would do as a child, but the rover was sent with a machinery to dig into the soil on the surface of Mars to find out more about the soil. And this is like, in this picture, you can see it more or less that's the scenery. This is the mole. It's like a vibrating device digging into the soil. And while doing it, of course, there is a part of the soil that is being squashed left and right. So they have a pile of sand next to it. It's our sand castle on Mars. And this is the paper according to it. That's where I got the picture from. So from scientific language and to vocabulary and visuals that children can figure out more. This is the theory on the edges, and practically you can make it look like this with a part of different vocabulary and explanations. And breaking down scientific visuals, this is the original schedule of an astronaut during his time on the ISS. It's by Alexander Gerst, one of the German astronauts. That's a real timetable. Of course, there are over 100 timetables, like versions of a timetable, because timetables are set well in advance. An astronaut already knows today what he will do in half a year if he's flying up, like set meticulously. Tönning doesn't like his timetable that he gets by Mission Control Mumbai, because it says something along the lines that at 6 o'clock there is the wake-up call, world time wake-up call, because the ISS functions on world time, and it's always at 6 o'clock. So if you know 6 o'clock world time, you know that up in the sky, 400 kilometers around, on the height of 400 kilometers above us, there is this ISS circulating, and at 6 o'clock world time in the morning, everyone is woken up. That's the schedule on ISS every single day. And every single day at 7 o'clock, there is a conference with Mission Control. That's how they usually set it up. And so Turning doesn't like it, it's too early for him. So I broke down the visuals of one of the very elaborated timetables and put it in an easy version, but it's the timings like they do it on ISS. So there are a lot of skills that you need. It's not easy to write children's books, especially the non-fiction ones, because you should be a bit childlike, you should be curious, you should have empathy, and some patience, because when you read the scientific original material, you shouldn't push yourself through it and say, oh, you're too stupid to get it. You will never finish with this book because it's the background and the research is so difficult. You will have to have patience with yourself and ask others. And therefore, you need a lot of networking skills to meet the people who can tell you how the behind-the-scenes information really works. So you need connected thinking and a good network of people and a lot of more good reading skills. So it's valuable to learn to read and write and connect to your inner child. So this is the last slide I want to show you, because I told you that we had a change of illustrator in between. When books come out in Germany, we have half a year prior to having them on the shelves. There is information by all the publishing houses, and they send out information what's coming up next, so that bookstores already know what they can purchase for their clients. And this is the pre-ordering information made by my publishing house. And you can see me, you can see the astronaut, you can see some cute information that I was writing as a marketing tool, and then you can see how it was supposed to look like in the version with the other illustrator. That was an Austrian illustrator, so it's quite international. I would always work with other people from other countries, but there is a huge difference, I would say, in coloring and setup, but that's what can happen. So there is a lot of things going into a children's non-fiction book. There are changes, there is science, there is networking, there is so much. And yeah, I just want to say thank you, and I'm open for any questions that you might have for the behind the scenes. That's it from me. Oh, there's a question.
Why do you have to advertise a book before you sell the copy?
That's a good question. So books, I like to think about books as artistic projects where you put your heart into it, and then it will be going through to the audience that really wants to read the book. The publishing house, I'm the artist, right? I make it up in my mind, I write it, and then it's going to be beautiful. The publishing house is a company, so they want to earn money. And when they want to earn money, they think there should be as many people as possible who have the money, and that's the bookstores first, because that's the chain how it works, or they should advertise it on Amazon or online so that people know that this book is coming. And that's what they do well in advance. There are so many books in Germany that are sold every half a year. There's a new program, and they are informing well in advance, because then they know that the bookstores will already order, even though the book is not produced yet, but the bookstore will order before, and then they know, okay, this is going to be a great book, and I should print a bit more. That's how they do it. Is that good enough as an answer for you? Okay. Are there any other questions?
Is this book being translated to English?
Not yet, but I gave it to Sunita Williams when I was in KLF, and I told her that she might be able to find a US publishing house or the KLF, the Kerala Literature Festival, where I was before I came to Hyderabad. They know that I wanted to be published in Indian languages, so you can cross fingers that it's going to happen, because usually the publishing house is supposed to sell the rights, the licenses, but they are in Germany, and they always say, we are not connected to the Indian market, and it's such a full market, blah, 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 so they make excuses, and I want to be it. To have it in Indian languages and in English, so I am trying to make an effort to connect to the publishing houses. So cross thumbs, and then it will happen. Any other? Okay.
Did you make up a few parts of the book? Did you make up a few parts of the book?
I made up the whole story, but all the facts are right. So I invented the story according to the possibility to implement all the facts. I did all this research and I knew I want to talk about rover, I want to talk about gravity and non-gravity, I want to talk about how long it takes to get to space, I want to talk about all the training that an astronaut has. There is, they set up the apartment, for example, Maya's apartment at home will be set up like a space station, so I need to know what modules there are on a space station and what they are made for. So the cockpit of the rocket is under the bed of Maya. So when they exit the cockpit, they are in the right module of the real space station. That's the children's room. And next to that module, there is another module on the ISS. So I set it up like it is in reality on the ISS and like the real procedures for becoming an astronaut are. But the whole story around it, I made up myself. Okay. Any other question? No? Then we are done for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this lovely session. I'm sure we all learned a lot about what goes behind making a non-fiction book. We just read a book and we think, yeah, we finished it and it just takes a minute, but that's the amount of work the writer and the illustrator put in, and the production team and everybody else. So I think by just opening our eyes to this, you've done a really great service, and we do hope the book would be translated into English and published in India, because I know the children's market in India is pretty big, and that's the kind of book we do need. So thank you so much, and thank you everyone for being a very appreciative audience. Thank you so much.